Dean here. 9-game slate, not messing around. First slate before or right after the All-Star break. Hopefully y'all enjoyed yourself for a week or so. We also are rolling out 3-man booth to talk about quite possibly the worst slate of the year. Well, we'll see. It's going to get bad. You guys aren't aware, we'll give you the update as far as the Portland situation. That game was potentially going to not be played because the Blazers are not in the city of Sacramento, but their plane just took off. However, they're going to be resting Dame Lillard and Jeremy Grant. So and of course, Anthony Simons is already out, and of course, Nurkic is already out. And Sacramento's probably like a 12-point favorite now. And there's not a lot of value otherwise. That's the slate because, the All-Star break, most players are healthy and good to go. Prices have adjusted. So all throughout the day, 9-gamer, it's like, well, there's not a lot of value today. Well, here is the value. A lot of people wanted to play Dame Lillard. Cross him off your list. We got, thankfully, Bobby Gomes, head chopper, $1 Million Club here. Going to talk through the slate, figure this out. We're going to get our projections updated momentarily as well. I assume all the Portland chalk's going to hit in a second. But, yeah, Chop, what's going on, dude? How are things in your world? How was your All-Star break? And, whatever you thought of this slate of 20 minutes ago, it's been flipped on its head. Somewhere Pete Overs that's excited.
I don't get that reference, but it was a fun All-Star break, and it was really, honestly, Dean, is not much different for me. I don't, NBA is kind of, This is a perfect example of why I kind of don't play as much NBA anymore. Let's just put it like this: I might play some when I'm doing this.
Did we lose Chop? We may have lost Chop.
I might have too many windows open. I was looking at some bad stuff earlier, Dean. Let me close some stuff down and see if that works. Am I back?
I hope you got your VPN on, just in case. You never really know. But yeah, it's you're back. You're good to go. We're gonna power through. Hopefully, we get the internet working in San Antonio, somewhere in Texas, right? You're gonna power on through. Chop, you good to go? Give me a 1, 2, 3.
I mean, is it on my end?
I believe so. I think so.
All right. Well, then it's on me then. I don't know, Dean. I can't. I don't know what Spectrum Internet has going on, but maybe they got some construction down the road. I don't know.
I'll write an email on your behalf, and maybe within a couple of years or something, some kind of action will happen. But this is Daily Fantasy Sports Shop tonight and tonight only. It's all we care about. Hopefully, your internet gets finely tuned as we progress. I'll throw it over to Bobby for a second. What's up, Bobby? Your All-Star break? How was it? Good times? And yeah, this is the association. I kind of thought it would be a quiet night, silly me, because, there was like basically nobody questionable coming into the day outside of maybe Jamal Murray. Everything else is basically solidified. Things can pop up for sure. We're expected. But OG Anunoby expected back tonight. San Antonio is going to be a mess forever, basically. But yeah, well, your thoughts here, Bobby, and we'll figure it out on the fly as far as Portland. Of course, that's the last game on the slate as well.
My vacation was good. Yeah. Nice little break. Get back to the grind. Interested to hop in tonight and break down the slate. What's it called? Yeah. The Dame news is tough right out the gate, right? Like you immediately have to figure out the value there. So I don't know. We can get I think that's probably one of the main issues on the slate currently that we got to kind of work through.
Yeah. 10 o'clock East Coast game. And I assume that game's going to be going. And again, it was touch and go earlier today. Snow issues, I believe, was the problem there with Portland. Portland was trying to get out of Sacramento for maybe 24 hours or so or something like that. But allegedly they're in the air now. But also at some point in the air, they scratched Lillard and they scratched Grant. Who knows what else is going to happen there. But, yeah, and again, they're already without two of the other pieces. And essentially, I don't know if they're protesting because they're talking about maybe just why we even playing this game because they're going to arrive, 3 hours for the game, 2 hours, whatever it is. But it is what it is, and we'll kind of deal with it. But there's basically no way, as far as I can tell, of avoiding Portland tonight. It's just a matter of how much Portland you're going to squeeze in because, they're not going to get shut out. They're probably going to lose, but they're probably going to put up 90 points or whatever, maybe 95, and all their dudes are 3K, 4K, 5K essentially as far as last man standing for Portland. Going to run some optimals in a second as well. Of course, we're going to do the game-by-game deal. The other part of it is that Lillard was the most popular big spend in the slate, and now we have salary to spend on guys that are the second or third or your fourth favorites, depending on and we'll kind of figure that out. And, of course, ownership's going to get completely shuffled around because I thought Lillard was an interesting fade for tournaments. And I also love Sabonis, our side, but now how long could Sabonis absolutely throttle this team? Because theoretically, they should beat this Portland team, in 3 quarters. But you never know. It's basketball. Those guys get paid as well on the Blazers. But anything else here, Chop, as far as, overarching thoughts in the slate? Because before Portland, when he had basically no value, like Horton Tucker and the Jazz, it was like the stuff that was popping the most because something's got to pop. But, the absence of Sexton, Horton Tucker, Olynyk was too cheap on DK. Kessler was pretty good price. Utah was popping pretty good. But overall, for a 9-gamer, the slate felt pretty small to me.
Dean, how's my internet now?
You sound good. You sound all right.
I shut down some tweet decks and some different stuff and trying to spruce up the internet. I didn't get a chance. I got cut off there. I didn't get a chance to say, Dean, this is a pretty special show. It's first time me and Gomes on a show together, Dean. So
is it?
This is one for the record books right here.
Have you guys met in real life in person or no?
No.
We've been on it. We were in CPC together though.
Yeah, we
Corona Poker Club, of course. Yeah,
we were until Kirk shut it down on us. Don't want to throw nobody under the bus.
Well, that was Kirkwood's deal, right? He was the man. He was number one. He was the
dictator, man. He was the dictator.
Probably a good thing for me. He shut it down personally. I was getting Chop was taking all my money.
Oh no! I got slaughtered in the poker, man. I got slaughtered, but
we started bringing in pros. There were some ringers coming in, and that was a whole controversy. Right?
Now you're talking the conspiracy angle, Dean, and I like that because I do think there were some guys who had some ringers playing for them behind the scenes. But I'm not throwing nobody under the bus. J Mac.
Yeah, well, there's one name you throw under the bus. I was actually in the Discord for it, but I never participated. I was going to, and I never kind of caved in. But and I didn't really lurk either. For the record, I wasn't a lurker. I was there and never read the nonsense. But I'm sure there's a lot of fun nonsense as well. Okay, rerunning some optimal stuff. By the way, I want to see what's popping up because it's going to be all the Blazers, I imagine. But yeah, we're going to take a while to get to that game. Of course, that's a late night hammer game. Otherwise, anything else here of note, Bobby, that we should mention before we get there? Because we got 9 games to break down. We're here for an hour plus until the crunch time crew comes in. I believe it's Kevin Roth. You got TJ Zwarych, and you also have, I want to say SquirrelPatrol is going to be there as well. Live finalist about 97 times, give or take.
Yeah. So for me, like I was hoping Dame played, and it kind of, because I was just going to pay the $500 more. I was on the same page as you. Like I thought Dame was an interesting fade in tournaments and just play Luka. So now I'm just kind of thinking through it. So we could just hop in and maybe the thoughts will flow and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Very first run through, by the way, DK, according to our projections, all of them were hitting like the maximum, like Little at 71%, Keon Johnson, 71%. These are people that play for the Portland Blazers, if you guys are not aware. Cam Reddish, the new Blazer, and then Sharp. Yeah, man, a lot of Blazers are hitting optimals. No surprise. We'll talk about that as we get there and how things have changed as far as the slates. But very first game going down tonight, there's 3 games. 3 of the 9 are at 7 o'clock on the dot. Boston, Indiana is the first one we're going to talk about. 232.5 is the total. Boston is a 9-point favorite here. Good matchup for Boston. The tricky part is, and this is going to be kind of a theme of this slate, is that Boston is fully healthy, right? Everybody's good to go. Brown is back with his face. Robert Williams has that ankle. He's good to go. Muscala's fine. So they're fully loaded, ready to go. Indiana, nobody injured on those teams. So both teams here are fully healthy. Not that it's a great matchup for Indiana against Boston. I'll throw it to you, Chop. Like, now we have money. You're going to have money to spend up on a Tatum if you want to spend money up on Tatum. You did before, but it was really, really tough to justify. But now, if you want to play Tatum with some cheap Blazers, where is Tatum? Where are the Celtics for you? Of course, again, good matchup, but with nobody being injured, there's no benefit as far as the asking price. Everybody's kind of priced where they should be, if not maybe a little bit too much. Chop, Boston, go for it.
So I'll preface this, Dean, by saying I'm looking at FanDuel salaries and stuff, all right? So I might be a little bit off for the DraftKings stuff, but yeah, I had Tatum highlighted as a really good play, just based on the ownership numbers over there, super low, and that was before I had all that value open up. So I kind of like Tatum, and already. It's a good matchup and should be a semi-competitive game. Boston's a better team, but at least it's on the road, so Indiana has a fighting shot at keeping these guys active for 4 quarters. So I do like Tatum, and obviously the rest of the guys are the ones who take the big hits with everybody back healthy. Like you can't pay for Derek White now, I don't think.
No.
So, and then the other guys kind of cannibalized.
Oh boy.
I think we lost Chop.
Chop got cannibalized over there. Oh, he's back.
Man,
Chopper.
okay, I don't know, Dean.
You got to write an email, Chop, man. You got to make something happen.
I don't know. Stevie says the internet's good. He says it looks fine. It's dropping every once in a while. I was having some problems. I had some crazy problems with Spectrum the day before the Super Bowl. Man, I was getting worried too because they were knocking the cable out, and I think they were boosting up. But whatever they did is not working here today, so I apologize for that. But bottom line on this one, I like Tatum, and then the rest of the Celtics are probably a pass for me.
Yeah, jump in here, Bobby. It looks like we actually updated our ownership stuff, by the way, for what it's worth. And yeah, now all of a sudden, geez, are we getting 20% ownership on Halliburton? This is Fanduel for what it's worth. Let's see, when was this updated? 5:09 East Coast time, so just updated, right? And I assume it's kind of factoring all the Portland stuff. So now we have salary to delegate. Brown is getting 17% on Fanduel. Let's see what we have as far as DK, what's changed on DraftKings. Chop, if you want, you feel free to focus on Fanduel, and Bobby, you can focus on DK. I think that makes sense. Does that work for both you guys?
Yeah, that works.
Awesome. All right. Bobby, your thoughts as far as, feel free to jump over to Indiana as well. I don't know if there's a lot to love. Halliburton's got a pretty good price on Fanduel. He's workable, but still nobody getting 10% ownership on DK for this entire game. Are you with that, or are you going to take some shots as far as your Celtics? What's your read?
For the Celtics, just full squad, right? Like, you had Derek White. He's playing 35 minutes. He's going to get that, pretty much cut by 10, I would imagine, in this situation now. There's no one really I want to play on a nine-game slate. I guess the small forward position, if you wanted to, different, switch up the build a little bit and play Tatum at 11K. It's just the guys around Tatum at 11K are so strong. Maybe Jaylen Brown at 9-2 would be a good way if you want someone at shooting guard. Small forward is going to be lower owned. They just have a full squad, so I'm probably not going there myself. On the Pacers side, Nesmith at 4K I thought was a pretty interesting play earlier in the day, but now we have all this Blazers chalk, so I don't know how much I'm going to be going there, but not really too much on the Blazers that I want. If you want to get to Halliburton, that's fine, but Nesmith would be the particular value I'd have interest in, but now that we have this Blazers stuff, I don't know how much interest I still have.
They're asking in the chat to rerun the expert survey. Yeah, I jumped on right before the show, and then that news kind of broke, and I wrote up Lillard, and of course that's kind of throw that out. That's just how it goes sometime in the association. Some of the guys are doing their updates, so feel free to give it a refresh as far as the expert survey. I apologize. I'm not good enough at multitasking to write a blurb on a brand new player as I'm hosting the show. I wish I could. Unfortunately, I cannot. Also worth noting that Derek in chat's talking about Robert Williams, Time Lord, #1 defense versus archetype matchup tool play. I know his price was pretty good on FanDuel. He was kind of, I don't want to say he was popping earlier, but you didn't really have the salary for a guy like Embiid or like a guy like Jokic. What do you think of Williams, Chopper? I'm not sure if you mentioned. I know it's a full squad, but on FanDuel, it's nice when you catch him on the right night as far as his stocks. You can get him going at 5 or 6 of those, 3 points per. Do the math, and you're kind of already halfway there. Is he somebody that interests you, or if you're making one lineup, it's probably not your guy?
One lineup, it's probably not the guy. I think he's fine for tournaments if you want to sprinkle some Time Lord in there, But then we're talking about a position where I think there's a lot of good value later on we'll talk about too. So,
all right. We got anything else as far as this game, or are we moving on? I believe we're moving on, yes? We are. Pistons, Magic, toilet bowl game. 228 is the total. Magic are 7-point favorites here in Orlando as far as who's in and who's out. Bagley should be coming back soon, but he's not expected to play tonight. I think Nerlens Noel might get bought out. He's not going to be available for what it's worth. Orlando is fully healthy. Again, they even have Gogo Batadze available if they want to use him. They want to unleash Gogo, thrown out by Indiana. Isaac's available. Cole Anthony's back with his wrist. Just an ugly game all around. Some interesting plays earlier. I thought there was a couple pieces that were worth some darts, but I don't know how I feel now. And this, I'm really excited at the prospect of possibly just ignoring this game, Bobby. You tell me, as far as Detroit and Orlando, I thought an interesting cheapie earlier in the day, at least, was Wiseman for Detroit, the backup center. And supposedly they're going to start him at some point. At least that's the allegations. Who knows when that's going to go down? He's super, super cheap, but I don't know how much I need that anymore. And I didn't feel great about it before. Just like you mentioned, Neesmith on Indiana, just the way that the slate has changed. I don't know if I'm at the reach on Wiseman anymore, but just somebody I thought was interesting. Your thoughts as far as Pistons, Orlando?
Yeah, I don't think Wiseman is in play, like you said. We have this Portland value. Killian Hayes at 4.7. I do have interest in, though. We have him for 30 minutes. He's been playing well. I think he's fair to get to at the point guard position now that Dame's pretty much out. You're going to need guys to fill that position. Jaden Ivey at 5.5. Don't mind him either. My on the Orlando side, what I think was interesting, and Chop kind of hit on it, like Wendell Carter, like at 5'8", like there's going to be three centers between 5'7" in 6K or 5'9". It's like Kessler, Wendell Carter, Podol, and I guess you could throw Robert Williams into there as well. I think a lot of construction is going to be built around those guys. So I do think Carter's a very good play. He's another one who's up in terms of the defense versus archetype matchup. He's right in front of Williams. He's at 5,800. So on the Magic side, he would probably be my favorite. I think Fultz is in play as well. Fultz has just been balling, and you get him for 6K. I don't mind paying that. But those are like my main guys and what I'm looking at in this game.
Chop?
Yeah, this is like not an appealing game to me. Like I didn't really highlight anybody. If I'm running the optimals for Fanduel, Franz Wagner is jumping off. No thanks, man. I'll pass on him. And then Killian Hayes again. But those guys just don't interest me. I think now that the Portland game opened up, I kind of don't need to save money with this game. This game could be really ugly, Dean. Both these guys, both of these teams really want a shot at Wembanyama. So,
wait, who's that again now?
Wembanyama. Wembanyama. How do you pronounce it, Dean? Come on.
Wembanyama?
No, you're wrong on this one. I'm right. Anyway,
so you're saying Wagner is going to play poorly to tank for Wembanyama.
I just, that's the whole point of tanking is like, it's not that players are going to play hard, but then all of a sudden they don't get as many minutes. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Orlando's pretty decent, but Detroit definitely wants that number one pick again. So I don't know. This is just not an appealing game. I mean, Banchero hasn't played well in like a month and a half. And, I don't know. Just doesn't jump off the charts for me.
How do you get Banchero right and you get Wagner wrong?
How did I get Wagner wrong?
It's Wagner. He's German.
I know it's Wagner, but I'm not German, so I'm going to say it the way I feel like saying it. Right? I mean, that works for me.
Okay. I mean, so you have to be the person's nationality to correctly pronounce their name. Understood. Fair enough. The problem with Orlando is they're it's four teams battling for those three spots, and they're on the outside looking in, and I think Charlotte's got 6, 7 games on them, so Orlando really can't improve their standings in the tankathon, if that makes sense. Detroit is certainly battling; they're in the fringe. They're third, so they definitely want to lose. Your Rockets, boy, shout out to the state of Texas. Rockets have lost 7 straight, and the Spurs have lost 14 straight. Just incredible.
This is it, Dean. This is the last year to tank, man. If you can get that number 1 or number 2 pick, then you start signing good free agents and try to win again. This is it.
How
Dean.
good is I don't watch any college basketball. I know you do. At least I think you do. How good is the second? Is Scoop or something? What's the guy's name?
Scoot Henderson. He's G League and he's very good. He's like He's really so. If you can land number 1 or number 2, you got a cornerstone player.
How about 3? I assume there's a big drop off.
Actually, 3 is not bad. I think it's Brandon Miller from Alabama, and he's kind of like a low key version of Kevin Durant. So he's not bad either. I think he has a lot of upside too. So it's a good heavy draft. But if you get 4, you're really in bad luck if you get 4.
Go to bed. Yeah. The drop-off happens pretty fast. Hayes is getting 14% ownership on DK for what it's worth, 4.7K. We're giving him a 27-point projection. Wendell Carter, like Bobby mentioned, 5.8 on DK. Pretty good, fantasy point minute, 32 fantasy points there. But like you said, it's an interesting conversation. How are you handling that, Bobby? Because there's Kessler right there. You mentioned Pirtle. I didn't know Pirtle was right there in the conversation, but I guess he can be. And they gave him a pile of minutes. They traded for him. I assume they want to extend him. I don't totally get that, but I guess that's what they're going to do, Toronto. How are we prioritizing those three? Carter, Pirtle, and I think Kessler is going to be the most popular amongst those three.
So I think Kessler's my favorite. I think a lot of people are going to play Carter at 5'8". I think I would prefer Podol. And then Carter would be the third for me. I also, if I was playing 150, would have Robert Williams grouped into that. I'm only playing 11 teams on DK though, so I don't think I'm
why 11 out of curiosity.
Just playing just what I play usually in NBA or I've been playing.
All right. Denver. Denver is facing Cleveland. Obviously slower teams, good defensive teams, especially Cleveland. 222.5 is the total. The total speaks to that. Denver is a 2-point dog here. As far as the body parts, Murray not officially in, right? I know he was practicing. I think he's still I guess he said he was going to play. That's the note I'm seeing. We know Aaron Gordon is out. Reggie Jackson, Rjax will be available. As far as Cleveland, the only one there without is Ricky Rubio. They did let Kevin Love go to Miami Heat. That's going to change everything for Miami. Jetty Osman should be available with his neck. This is a game that I was kind of sort of somewhat ignoring. If Murray is out, it doesn't feel like he will be. Obviously you get a bigger upside for Jokic. Of course, you can always play Jokic. The matchup isn't great, but he's essentially matchup proof. Bobby, Denver versus Cleveland. What do you like in this game? What's pop for you?
Yeah, so Jokic is the stud that's going to get squeezed in the slate. People are going to play Doncic. They're going to play Embiid. They were playing Lillard. They're not anymore, obviously. Tatum. But then you have all those other centers that we just kind of hit on. And for that reason, I think people would rather go up to Embiid for 11-1, but Jokic has a pretty good defense versus archetype matchup as well. I don't mind playing Jokic ever. And I think he's going to come in 10% or under, I would imagine. So I think it's fine to play some Jokic. He'd probably be my favorite on the Denver side. And then on Cleveland, well, I think Jamal Murray's in play as well. Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon's out, correct? So I think those guys all get a boost in that scenario a little bit. On the Cleveland side, not much I love. I seen some of these. I seen Osman popping earlier, but I think I'd still rather play as a value play. Now we have those Portland guys. I was playing 150. I don't want to play a ton of Chetty Osman. Maybe Darius Garland at 8-4. What?
We're giving 8 minutes to Jetty Osman. I'm not really sure where
I don't know where I seen it earlier that I don't know. Maybe I was wrong in what I was looking at, but I don't know. I seen him in some. I was probably maybe I had his minutes wrong for only giving him 8 minutes.
Okoro's been playing better. I know Rubio's out, but even if he plays 15 or 20.
Okoro at 3-3, I would imagine would be
as well as desperation plays maybe earlier in the day when there's less value, but now. Yeah. I don't see it. I don't think he's landing on your teams. I'm guessing.
No, yeah.
Well, you mentioned Jokic on DK. What's interesting as far as the ownership stuff on DK, we got him at 13%, which is fine. On Fanduel, we have Jokic at 2%, 2.5%. That's a big steep drop off. Chop, Jokic, Denver, Cleveland. Thoughts?
What's up? You talking to me? You
What
talking
is
to me,
it?
Dean?
Was I prompted to say something? Yeah, you have thoughts on this basketball game going down tonight, the association?
Yeah, I think this is a fine game to go a one-on-one, a one player from one side, one player from the other team. I don't think you're going to game stack this thing, but I love Donovan Mitchell versus Jamal Murray on a team and let the two guards go at it. Mitchell was crushing it right before the All-Star break. Now he gets a little extra rest. And Murray,
do we assume Murray's getting full minutes his first game back? I don't think that's fair to assume. We're giving 32. Okay, that's about full
I don't
minutes.
see why not. Why not? Give him some minutes. But without Aaron Gordon, it's only been 3 games, but he absolutely crushes. Like his average jumps up significantly without Aaron Gordon out there. Don't know if that's just all flukish because of the small sample, but point being, I'd still take Murray versus Mitchell in this game and let them go at it on a GPP team.
If you don't want to worry about building full lineups tonight, we'll hook you up with the No House Advantage promo code. If you want to play some fantasy prop action, No House Advantage offering a very easy pick for tonight's game. John Morant, over under points, a half a point. Bobby, do you think he's going to get over a half a point? You think he scores tonight, John Morant?
I think he gets over a half a point, Dean.
Bold. Chop, you want to chime in and rebut, or you're on board with that as well?
My projections have him over that.
So, you can bet the over on John Morant. And this is, of course, you know how sometimes there's allegations these players conspire with the sites. I don't think it's happening. I'm fairly certain it's not. I think John is well compensated. He doesn't need any sort of nonsense on the side, any sort of side hustle. Use the promo code Grinders, $100 deposit bonus, deposit match. Jump in the action tonight. No house advantage. Again, basically, you want to call it a free square. I cannot imagine a scenario. It'll be really, really goofy that Ja does not score 1 point. 1 point in the bucket this evening. So check that out there tonight. No house advantage.
I would love for him not to score so we could see the Twitter mentions.
I would love it too, but at the same time, like people are gonna like the nonsense that'll be out there. But you're right. I will be retweeting the people that have whatever conspiracy theories. How does he have 17 assists and no points? All right. Hey, you know what? We're going to talk about the Grizzlies. Since it's the first game of the ESPN doubleheader, or it's TNT. It's a national TV doubleheader. Good game. Fun game. Memphis at Philadelphia. 230.5 is the total. Memphis is a 4-point dog here as far as the body parts, who's in and who's out. This is basically the theme of the slate. Memphis is, well, I want to say fully healthy. We haven't seen Steven Adams for a while. He's not back tonight. They traded for Luke Kennard. He's not playing. But, basically it is their full team. Philadelphia essentially fully healthy as well, with the exception of Dwayne Dedman, who just would play some backup 5. Even Joel Embiid, who's been on the injury report like every game, basically the last 20 games, is not on it. So same deal as always, Bobby. Basically the theme of the slate, with the exception of a few games here and there. Fully healthy teams, both sides, so no great price breaks. There's nobody on sale, but of course there's some really good fantasy players. John Morant. You got Embiid as well. You're talking about Embiid grabbing some ownership over Jokic. That's what I'm seeing as well as far as ownership. 23% on DK. That's double what Jokic was projected for. Your thoughts as far as Memphis and Philly?
Yeah, I like this game a whole lot more prior to the Portland news. Thought Morant was a good pivot off of Lillard. 10-8, still think he's fine. He's not my favorite, but of the studs at 10-8, you can always play John Morant. Brandon Clark and Xavier Tillman were showing as value plays prior to the Portland news. I think that's kind of changed, I would imagine. You could still get to these guys, but I don't know. I don't know how much I'm going to have them. Jaren Jackson at 7-8, you can always play him if he gets the minutes. It could, and if the minutes go in your favor at 7-8, it's a good price for Jaren Jackson. But my favorite play in this game is Embiid, 11-1. Very easy to play Embiid. The issue is those centers that we talked about between 5'7" and 6K are all very strong. Seen a lot of builds where you're getting 2 of those guys. Prior to the Portland news, Lillard was the guy that everyone was going to play with 2 of those centers, and I was going to play Embiid. Now we have an issue where I wasn't playing Lillard and I was playing Embiid. So now we have an issue where more people are going to gravitate towards Embiid. Still think Embiid's a really good play. It's a really good spot versus front court of Memphis. Don't mind getting to him. Harden at 9-9. I think a lot of people are going to overlook Harden. I think you can play him here. Tobias Harris is the best value play at 4-9. It's come a lot. We've played Tobias at 6'8", 7K. So 4-9 I think is a pretty good value play, although he's been pretty horrendous all season. But that's what I got for this game.
Yeah, I mean, earlier today I was set to play some Tobias Harris and hold my nose, and the whole deal is you play anybody for the right price, you pay anybody for the wrong price, and I know Harris, like you said, it's been terrible, but 4-9, we're talking 4-9 now. He's like a punt kind of sort of basically. max player, Tobias Harris, but with the usage as far as this team, he's at 19% usage on the season, 0.9 DK points per minute, but Harden's going to shoot more, Embiid's going to shoot more, Maxi's going to shoot more. He's like barely above like the Gorgin Yang and like Shake Milton and the Melton guys of the world, but he's super cheap, and I think he's certainly in play, but a little bit less appealing than he was a couple hours ago. Chop, jump in here. Memphis and Philly, your take.
It's a really good game for real life and competitive, but I don't know. I don't love it for fantasy because the best players are super expensive, and it's not really. I mean, I guess you could, like Embiid just keeps on putting up big time numbers, so he's fine. And Harden's expensive, and he's kind of the second fiddle, so I don't know if I love him, and I kind of don't want the other guys. The one guy I really like in this game, Dean.
Yeah.
The one guy, my favorite guy in this game, and he's
Triple J.
Triple J. How'd you know that, man?
Yeah. Because he's electric. He's on the road though, so he's not going to need any blocks on the road. Well,
here's the thing, Dean. First of all, they proved that they busted that myth. That was a myth buster, man. He got the shots he blocked at home. He got credited for the proper block, so they didn't embellish it. But he also his last 3 games against Embiid, he has 9 blocks. So he's not scared of this matchup. He kind of does pretty well in this matchup for the most part. So I do kind of like Triple J.
I guess he dodged foul trouble.
Yes. I mean, if he's put up some really good games against Philly in general. So I guess he did dodge the foul troubles. That's good. That's surprising. No, actually, last game he got 5 fouls and he still put up 22 and 12, 22 and 9 with some blocks. So yeah, he just I don't know. Maybe he's just like a bit of a kryptonite for Embiid. I don't know.
Yeah. And he can hit some threes as well, too, not just the stocks. He can get some boards as well. Obviously, a pretty electric player. I think he's interesting. He's in play. Like, he's not a cash game play, but for tournaments. And he's certainly had some ceiling games as well. But like you said, or we hinted at, like, he can get 2 fouls the first 2 minutes, and you're just tilted the entire game. That's just how it goes sometimes with Triple J. But if you're shooting for upside, you're shooting for first. I think you should be at least in your pool if you're running a bunch of lineups. New Orleans and Toronto, 226 is the total. New Orleans is a 5-point dog here versus Toronto. This game looks pretty terrible from a DFS perspective. I'm curious if you guys want to tell me otherwise. New Orleans, Dyson Daniels may be available. He's questionable right now. Of course, Zion's out. He's been out for a while. He had a setback. Larry Nance is available. Toronto, everybody's good to go. Trent's good to go. OG Anunoby's got that wrist. He's good to go. And Rad Thad Young also expected to play, fully healthy. And like everybody's kind of overpriced a little bit on the Toronto side with OG coming back. Precious is one of the worst, price players in the slate, far as I can tell. I don't like anything in this game, really, from like an optimal perspective. Of course, if you're running 150, you tell me otherwise, Bobby, because 10-2 for Pascal on DK. I have a really hard time getting there. FVV is 9-7 on DK. I think he's more interesting on FanDuel where he's like 8-2 or 8-3. So that's playable. But really, this game is kind of worthless to me. I don't think I'm playing anybody here.
Yeah, so I do like I hit on at the top of the show. I do like Podol at 5'9", saw 36 minutes prior to the break in Orlando. Don't mind getting to him. I think he's a very interesting play on the slate. He'd be my favorite play from Toronto. If one of these other Toronto starters hits your build, like you can play them. I don't think I'm going to have any, but the one that I'd prioritize would be Podol. On the Pelicans, like there's nothing I like for the Pelicans. Maybe you can make a case for Valanciunas, but I'm playing a lot of centers as is. I just don't think he makes the cut. The main play for me is Podol.
It is a Jonas Valanciunas revenge game if that does anything for you. You can't revenge on the bench, and you never really know how many minutes he's going to get from one night to the other, but theoretically there's a possibility. And, if they're throwing Pirtle out there, Pirtle's a big boy, so maybe they match those minutes. And all of a sudden, if you can get 30, 32 minutes out of Jonas Valanciunas as opposed to like 24 and Nance gets the other 24, Willie Hernan-Gomez is an option to kind of work into the system. I'm just thinking like tournament-wise, I suppose. But, yeah, by the way, you guys know how old Triple J is? He's no longer 19. They're talking about it in the chat. And what's up, chat? Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, hit all the things. Do that. We appreciate it. I believe TJ will be on later, and if I don't get enough likes, he'll be very upset, and he will yell at me. And that's, it's emasculating because like well older than him. He's a much younger person yelling at me, and don't put me in that predicament. So just kindly hit that like button. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe if you like as well, so you get notifications. We're going live. Hey, Chop, tell me about New Orleans, Toronto. Do you like anything in this game?
I do not, Dean. I do not. Toronto is, like you said, healthy, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all those guys against a team that's fairly decent defensively anyway, So I don't know if I like that side. On the New Orleans side, it's just not – there's nothing exciting there. Like, what am I supposed to do? Roster Herbert Jones and hope he has the 5-steal game? Like,
don't remind me. I faded him that game. When he had the 5 threes and the 5 steals.
That's what you have to get out of Jones. So there's that, and then Ingram eats into McCollum. They're expensive enough to where you don't like them. Joval, sure, GPPs. He can always deliver that one game in every 6 or 7 games. It just knocks it out the park. But it's not a very good game in my opinion.
Aaron wants to know any update on Portland getting to Sacramento. Yeah, the update was about an hour ago. They were on their way. So, and I think it's like an hour and a half flight. They are going to play basketball. No, that's not all. They're going to be wearing the Blazers jerseys, but some of those guys you won't recognize because Lillard is out and Jamari Grant. I guess they are rolled out on the plane as they're sitting in there on the tarmac. They're not playing basketball tonight, but there is expected to be a basketball game tonight in Sacramento. I'm not sure if they've landed just yet. Again, they probably wouldn't have because I guess it took off about an hour ago. But, we should know as more news comes in. But, yeah. Did you guys watch any of the All-Star festivities? I was thinking of Alvarado. I watched basically none of it, but I saw some of the slam dunks highlights. Just the All-Star game is whatever. It's an exhibition. I guess people like it, but I saw it got low ratings. But nobody tries. Malone called it the worst game he's ever been a part of, the worst game he's ever saw of basketball. But Alvarado had a motor. It wasn't that long ago, a couple of years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago. Kyle Lowry, who's a ghost of himself now, but he took a charge in the All-Star game, which, could you imagine somebody taking a charge in the All-Star game now? But he did that 4 years ago. It actually happened. Yeah. Anybody watch that? Anybody care? You guys didn't care, did you?
Personally, Dean, I did not watch. I did not care. And I'll also go a step further and say, you know what? If you're going to let that dude win the slam dunk contest, we might as well just not make it to where they need to be NBA players. You might as well just have an open invitation and pick 7 guys from around the nation and let them dunk, because that's not an NBA player. That's a G League guy.
Well, you got to showcase the NBA product, though. I understand what you're saying.
They're really stretching it. They're really stretching it thin with Mac McClung out there as a NBA player, right? So
the NBA give the Sixers a call and say, do us a favor, bump this guy up, give him a 10-day, so it looks somewhat legitimate. Did they give him a call? Was he going to get called up anyway?
There's no chance that guy sniffs an NBA court in his lifetime before that dunk contest. There's no chance.
He played a couple of years ago for somebody.
He's terrible. I saw him at Texas Tech. He was awful. He's not good, Dean. So
did he play at Georgetown? He was at Georgetown first.
I think he might have he definitely transferred to Tech, but I didn't find him all that appealing in college. I don't think he. Anyway, the point being, Dean, you might as well just throw the stuff out the window and pick 7 guys to come back and dunk from off the street, because, it's a joke of a festivity.
Some random dude that has no association with the NBA.
Well, it's a dunk contest. Oh, and by the way, Dean, can we talk about Karl Malone here getting invited to the All-Star festivities with his checkered past, to say the least?
Did people just find out about his PR team did a fabulous job.
No, it's just because they didn't have internet for the first 40 years of that stuff. So it kind of just flew under the radar.
I just thought it was wild that people were just finding out. But I guess it was one of those stories that was kind of buried. Hey, so McClung played for Chicago in 21. He played 1 game for the Bulls, and he played a game for the Lakers. Also, he played 22 minutes for the Lakers in the 2021-22 season, for what it's worth. So he did sniff, I guess you can say, in NBA courts. He can tell you what it smells like, but averaged 4 points in 2 games in 12 and a half minutes. I don't think I played him in DFS that night. He's no Lindy Waters, a third. That's what you're saying, right?
I'm not saying anything, Dean.
Bobby, you got anything to add to this conversation?
No, I saw Mac McClune pop up, and no, he didn't pop up as a play in projections, but I saw his name in projections prior to the break, and I was like, he's still I didn't even know he was relevant or in the league, so it was interesting to see. And I seen he won the dunk contest.
I think the hope is the NBA obviously would love it, and I don't know how to inspire the guys, but and now maybe a John Morant steps up and challenges them, then all of a sudden that could be fun, right? Maybe next year, right? But who knows? Maybe that's not the case because, I don't think Jericho Sims was the first guy they asked to join the dunk contest. No knock on Jericho Sims, but probably wasn't the first guy they let's all right. Let's get Jericho Sims on the phone. Let's lock him in and we'll figure the rest out. I don't think it goes like that, right? There's a hierarchy. But yeah, that's just how it goes, I suppose. All right, we had some time to delve into that. Would you watch that? I think people would watch Ja versus McClung, right? I think that would happen if people.
I would watch it. Yeah, I wish studs were more involved. Then I'd have more interest, right? I don't care about Chop said, Matt McClune. I have no interest. But if you get these studs involved, yeah, Ja going at Mac, I think that would be interesting.
What is the upside? I guess is the argument, right? What is the upside for the player? And I guess they can do great, but there's a downside, I suppose, too, if it just doesn't go well. But what's in it for them, I suppose. What's in it for their brand? And what if you lose to McClung and you're John Morant? Not that of course John Morant's a distinctly better player, but it's one particular skill. But all right, derailing the show. We got plenty of time though, no worries, because Crunch Time crew coming in a little bit over a half hour. We're making really, really good time because we've gone through a bunch of games of teams we don't necessarily love. Maybe, just maybe, we like some Spurs tonight. Do we? Do we like Spurs? They are 2 touchdown dogs here. Spurs versus the Mavericks, 240.5 total. It's a big boy total, but most of those points, a large chunk of those points, are going to the Dallas side. Looks like there's a blowout on layaway here. As far as the body parts, Dallas, Kyrie's good to go as far as his back. You're getting THJ. He's available too. So Dallas is as healthy as we've seen them in a long time. Of course, there's no Maxi Kleber, but he's been out for a good chunk of time. San Antonio, they're a mess. They will continue to be a mess. Trey Jones is out. Sohan questionable. The one true questionable that's on the slate basically. Langford is out. Roby is out. Vassell is out. They traded for Kyan Birch, and he is not playing basketball tonight. He's got a knee. Yeah, Bobby. Spurs, Dallas. We have money for Luka now, but it's a question of how long is Luka going to smash for, right? Dallas versus San Antonio. What's your read?
Yeah, for the raw points, I think Luka's the play at 11-9. He was the play for me previously, prior to, like we said, the Lillard situation. Easily going back at 11-9. Really like him. I'm not worried about Kyrie too much, but I do worry about the blowout. I do think the blowout is something you have to take into consideration. For me, though, I think I'm just playing Luka. We have the value to get to him, and it makes the most sense. In terms of general construction on the slate. On the Spurs side, Zach Collins at 5'6". I think I like those other centers better than Zach Collins in this range. But I do think if you're playing Luka, you want to run it back, right? So going to a Zach Collins or a Sochan, if you want to go that route, a Branham, I think that's fine. Branham went off prior to the break. I forgot I did not play him, and I seen him with I don't know. He put up a solid number, I think the night before. So maybe carries that over versus Kyrie defense. But for me in this game, it's mainly Luka. Favorite play from the Spurs would be Collins.
Chop, San Antonio and Dallas.
Yeah, similar thoughts. A couple of those guys from the Spurs, Branham being interesting, and yeah, they're all right. And I do think it's a spot where they're gonna make an effort to get Luka and Kyrie really, in a little groove here and beat up on the Spurs. So if you're in the sports betting, I do like the Mavericks tonight, and I do like Luka to put up a pretty big number. Speaking of sports betting, Dean.
Yeah.
Has Bobby visited the new casino down there?
I have not. I have. I haven't with Kirk yet, though. I want to go with Kirky. He invited me twice, and I was sick the other night, and then I couldn't. Then I had to watch the kid another night, so it was just tough. But I'm trying to get down there with him because I know he has the UFC props or whatever. So
is he a slots expert now, Kirkwood?
I've seen that on Twitter. Yes, I've seen that on
He
Twitter.
likes the video poker, man. Let the man live a little bit.
Him and my grandmother will be hitting up the slot machines.
Do you not play slots? That's what I'm hearing. I'm guessing you don't play the slots.
I don't really play. This is the first time we've ever had a casino, so I don't play too many table games. I just probably sports bet. Kirk taught me baccarat one time. I was banging on the table, monkey, monkey, monkey. Didn't know what I was doing, but I was saying it.
I don't know what that means.
I guess you just.
He might have just been playing a trick on you, man.
He might have been maybe
player, right? I don't know.
Banker. I guess banker is the best odds in the casino. No, everyone at the table is doing it. It's pretty. They could have been all in on a trick on me, I guess. But yeah.
I don't know. That's one of those games I've never got into. There's no. You just bet one side and that's that. Like the action just sort of plays out, and there's really no skill to it. My understanding, but I could be wrong. I think
it looked like there was skill to it based on how Kirk was like winning a ton of money. So I was just tailing him, not to the extent that he was playing, but
Luka is the one big spend, but it's getting the most ownership on DK. Well, I ran some optimals. Then again, 42% of the optimals have Luka in it. 36 have Embiid. They don't. The very first one actually has Embiid and Luka. Wow, that's interesting. It's got a 4-point projection over everything else. So I wonder how popular that's going to be.
Those were all my teams earlier in the day prior to the Lillard news. So I'm kind of upset. Everyone just fell on the build.
It's got 2 Jazz and 3 Blazers. And it's going to be, I understand why this is going to happen.
Is Walker Kessler one of those Jazz?
No, because it's got Embiid and Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney is the utility. Is he center and center only? I don't know if he's center or forward, but it's Embiid and Looney. No Kessler. It's THT and Jordan Clarkson. He's got actually a much better price on FanDuel, so I'm surprised. I know it's a fine price on DK. 7.5. We'll talk about them soon enough. But yeah, the 2 big spends are Embiid and Clarkson. I was a little surprised. We talked about this pre-show very briefly. That Sharp was not getting a big enough projection. He's hitting lineups, but not the number 1 guy on Portland. We'll talk about that soon enough. And I was going to run some court IQ stuff, but I don't even know if we have a sample with everybody off the court that's even going to be useful in any way. But all right, let's move on. I thought Christian Wood was kind of interesting if you're going to play the blowout. I don't know how much they would let him blow it out, but he's 6K on FanDuel. I think it's 6K. 7-1 on DK is kind of hard to get there. Like he's sort of fallen out of favor, but this feels like a team where he can just wallop and they'll just let him wallop because why not? Who cares? What's the he's certainly fallen out of favor with the arrival of Kyrie. But okay. Anybody have a thought on that? If you're running 150, would you play some Wood or is that too ambitious?
I think it's fine. You can play Wood. I think he probably makes more sense on FanDuel, like you said. On DK, it's tough because like position eligibility and just how strong the center position is in general. So I don't think I'd get too much on it.
We got OKC and Utah. There are 3 games left. Okay, assuming that Portland and Sacramento is playing 3 games left and it's 25 minutes. We're going to have time for questions from chat. Chat, feel free to load up some questions, whatever's in your mind. Crunch time comes in around 6:15 on the East Coast. Crunch time is extended these days. The people want more crunch time. They want more Roth. You're getting more TJ as well. You're also getting more, I think it's a SquirrelPatrol. So, yeah, that'll be good times for sure. We're going to step aside in about 25 minutes. But we got OKC, the Jazz, top of the Jazz getting a fair bit of ownership. 2 teams without nicknames that end in an S. There you go. That doesn't happen very often. Thunder at the Jazz, 240 is the total. Utah is a 1-point dog here. So this is what they say. It's high and it's tight. Utah was popping tremendously earlier in the day. They still are to some degree as far as who is in, who's out. Sexton being out is a big deal. THT was the biggest value play earlier in the day. Lauri Markkanen good to go now as far as his knee. They did bring up Frank Jackson and Chris Dunn. I don't know if they're available or not. They signed them. I think they both got 10 days. I assume they're available, but I want to confirm that because that could slightly hurt THT if he's in the rotation or either Dunn or Jackson. I don't think we're projecting either in as of right now. Okay. Yeah, Chop, open this up here as far as Utah, OKC. This feels like an interesting game stack to me. What say you?
Boom, I agree, Dean. It's kind of interesting. It's not bad. OKC's got some decent pieces there. I mean, SGA is expensive, so if you want to go there, that's fine. I think there are better options, but he's fine. And then then you've got Giddey and Jalen Williams. Those guys are all perfectly acceptable options. If you want to scrape on them, Lou Dortz, that's fine too. But yeah, there's some stackable pieces on that. And the Utah side, yeah, I really like the Utah side here with Sexton out. I really think we get a bump in the guards for the guards here. Horton Tucker, I don't think can how can he not get a little bit of a bump here, right? So him and Clarkson should be good. Remember, Conley's been gone for a while now, so that should contribute now with Sexton being out. And then I think there's a trickle-down effect. Marketing gets a little bit more. Maybe Kessler, although his game really isn't predicated on all that usage anyway. But I like the guards here for Utah quite a bit, Clarkson and Horton Tucker. So I do think there's elements of a game stack that look really good here.
Especially on Fanduel where Clarkson's 6'4". That's a really, really good price. 7.5 on DK. You can work with that as well. But love Clarkson on Fanduel. Marketing, he's all the way up to 9.4 on DK, which he certainly has paid that off more than once. 8.3 on Fanduel. Better play over there. But who's sending me a text message right now? All right. Oh, geez. I got to turn these off. I got an iPhone, and now it's connected to my Mac. And I don't know. I get notifications for everything. It's like, this is small world problems, I suppose. But just throw me off, derailing me for a second. Let me mute that. But I want to throw it to you, Bobby. Utah and OKC. Yeah, you kind of mentioned Kessler a couple times. Olynyk is certainly in play as well. We are not projecting THT to start for what it's worth, but he still should get plenty of minutes off the bench. That could be an interesting fade for chalk for tournaments like large field, especially big pay at the top. I don't know where I'm at as of right now on that because, of course, earlier in the day, he was the clear best value play by default, if nothing else. But, it's not a lock. I don't think it's a lock, especially if Dunn somehow gets to play. I don't know what the story is with that. But, yeah, what do you have here, Bobby? Utah and OKC.
I think that's a really good take. Like THT, shooting guard, small forward. A lot of these Portland guys are shooting guard, small forward. So then it's like, earlier in the day, if he's not starting, I was trying to find reasons to fade him. Not fade him entirely, but now if I'm playing like three teams, maybe I'll leave him off one. He's still a good play anyways, just because of position, right? Shooting guard, small forward, probably two of the weaker positions in terms of construction. So but I think you can make a case to I don't think you need to lock him, right? Now that we have this Portland value. Jordan Clarkson at 7.5. I think with Dame out, he makes sense more now at point guard. We have him for like 34 minutes. Good matchup versus Oklahoma City. Don't mind getting to him. Hit on Kessler a bunch. Kessler's probably one of my favorite plays on the slate at 5.7. Just going up against this front court of OKC, they have been stronger versus bigs of late. I do really like Kessler in this spot, though. Markkanen, 9.4. I don't want to play 9.4 for Markkanen. It has worked out, but I don't think he's hitting my stuff as much. Today, I'd much prefer Kessler or Olynyk. Olynyk we have at 5.3. I think he's fine. Yeah, if I had to rank my favorite Jazz, it'd probably be Kessler, Clarkson. THT, Kessler, Clarkson, and then Markkanen. On the OKC side, Shea, Giddey, they're always fine to get to. I think Lou Dort was an interesting pivot previously off THT. So, yeah, maybe you could have made a case there if Dort at 4.4 instead of playing THT. But now we have all that Portland news, so I don't think it's warranted. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this game.
I got a friend of mine who never plays DFS. Every once in a while, he's a sports fan, but he'll dabble. NBA is not the sport you dabble in. And he sent me a lineup. He said, hey, you like this lineup? And he has Bull and Reggie Bullock in his lineup. Like, what are we doing? He's clearly not watching the show, but like,
So
what?
yeah, I have a similar situation. My girlfriend's uncle just started playing like NFL DFS and has been trying to get in the NBA, and he's just like, I've been trying to tell him like NBA is like the worst sport to like actually try to pick up and play, right? He's hitting me up before lock like 3 minutes prior, and I'm like, oh baby,
Yeah.
he's got crazy lineups are just insane.
Why is he clicking on bull? Like, I know he's a fun player, but like, what does he see? He's probably watched SportsCenter once or twice. He saw a highlight, but
You've seen his YouTube highlights.
Good Lord, man. Come on. What are you doing? He's just throwing $15 away. But all right. Chop, give me your prioritize the Jazz. And by the way, the other thing about Kessler that's worth noting, I saw somebody write this up somewhere today. I don't remember where, somewhere on the RG content. And it's a good point. Kessler's not like a guarantee to lock. He's not a guarantee to close. Because especially if they're behind, they will swap him out sometimes like a 3-and-D guy, like for like Fontecchio or Agbaji might close. I'm not saying he's not going to, he's likely to close, but it's certainly possible he does not close. I've seen that a couple of times, or it's totally tilting. But of course, when he hits his ceiling games are awesome. Chop, OKC and Utah.
Oh, I was the first one to do OKC Utah, Dean.
Oh, I'm sorry. My friend threw me off. He bull. He wants to play. Are you serious? Just give me $15. Like, what are we doing? Donate it to a charity. Okay. We done with this game? We're moving on? I believe so. Yeah. Okay. We got Portland and Sacramento on layaway. There's 2 games. Dual-pronged hammer games. 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Very first one, back half of the ESPN or TNT doubleheader. It's Golden State and the Lakers. 238.5 is the total. The Lakers are 5 or 6 point favorites here as far as who's in, who's out for the Lakers. They are good to go. They are fully healthy. LeBron and Davis both are probable. D'Angelo Russell, Beasley, and Vanderbilt will start alongside them. Golden State, no Wiggins, no Gary Payton, no Steph Curry. Yeah, Bobby, Warriors, Lakers. I think this game's going to be kind of sort of somewhat lost in this slate. Is that correct? Is that what it is? Should it be lost? Are you going to find it?
I was finding it a little bit with Jared Vanderbilt earlier at 4-2. I like that price tag. Now we get this Portland stuff. Not really sure how it still fits in terms of construction. Malik Beasley at 4-1. Think he's also interesting as a value play. Can always play Anthony Davis at 10-6. Can always play LeBron. It's tough when they're both in there, right? D'Angelo Russell at 6'5". Don't think I'm getting there, but if he hits your build, I wouldn't fault you for it. On the there's like Jordan Poole. Is Curry still like? What's the situation with Curry? He's out, so yeah, I guess Jordan.
He's going to be out for a couple more weeks.
A couple more weeks. Jordan Poole's 9-1. I don't know if I want to pay that for Jordan Poole.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Clay, Draymond. I guess they're fine. I'm not getting to too much, so. But maybe I think Looney, like you kind of hit 4-4 Looney. I think that works.
Yeah, you'll need his size against the Lakers as well too. So, like he's not a sexy play, obviously, Kevon Looney, and I think he's fallen back as the day has progressed. But the projection is pretty decent, right? 4-4 center and center only on DK. 28 DK points is the projection. By the way, Embiid is ill, but he's expected to play for what it's worth. Did not go through shoot around, but he's officially probable. Joel Embiid. That's not a 7 o'clock game; it's a 7:30 game. Normally Philadelphia 7 o'clock, but I believe is that pushed back because of TNT or they're on the road. There's some reason why. Yeah, I think that's because it's TNT. It's national TV, so they changed the time. But I assume he's good to go, but just kind of be aware that something goofy might happen. It's national TV; he's going to play, but he's not feeling apparently 100%. Chop, what do you have as far as the Lakers and the Warriors?
Yeah, I mean it's okay. I like Jordan Poole, and DiVincenzo is okay. Clay should theoretically be all right, but he hit a rough patch right before the All-Star break. Maybe the rest did him some good. The rest of those guys I'm not a big fan of. Draymond Green, I'll pass. Looney, there's no upside with Looney, and we don't need the value, so I'll pass. And Kuminga is just not good, so I'll pass on that one. And then for the Lakers, we're talking about LeBron James. LeBron James is about to get hot and go on a nice hot streak. Dean, you want to get some LeBron James tonight, man?
Yeah, I like LeBron too. I think he's probably my favorite play in this game, and certainly you can get there if you want to. It's not very hard to make that work. Is he one of your favorite big spends in the entire slate?
Yes, he's got plenty of rest, and he even said it himself, Dean. This is one of the more important 20-something game stretches of his career. They've got to get into the playoffs and get a fair seed here, because I think they can make some noise in the playoffs, and he knows that. So, yeah, I think he starts it tonight.
Yeah, they got to get going for sure. I think they're on the outside looking in. I want to say, are they even in the play-in game contention? Are they 10 or close to 10? Let's see. The Lakers they are 11, 12. They're 13, but they're only one game outside of 10, right? So as far as the win column, OKC currently is a 10 spot. The standings are wild. New Orleans 7, Minnesota 8, Golden State 9, OKC 10, Utah at 11. They've fallen back. Portland 12, fallen back. The Lakers only have a better record than the San Antonio Spurs and the Houston Rockets in the West. 13 wins on them, but wow, they're dead last behind everybody else. That's interesting, but they've obviously positioned themselves as best they could to close strong. Javon wants to know, Bobby, Olynyk or Tobias Harris tonight? I prefer Olynyk, I believe.
I think I prefer Toby if Embiid's sick, right? Tobias, I don't know.
How are you reading that? Like, that's just like all we know is he missed shoot around, but he's going to play. And I mean,
you never know with Embiid though.
Yeah, I have no idea what to do with that. It's an interesting approach, though. I didn't think of that angle, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. Are you going to lower your Embiid ownership now with that report?
No, I don't think so. I do think that it'll scatter a little bit now. Like I don't think like where I think Embiid became the pivot off of Dame Luka became the pivot off of Dame, but I think Embiid's ownership definitely got bumped up because of that. I think you might see a little bit more ownership go to Joker or I don't know, maybe one of these Lakers studs, AD or LeBron.
Do you guys want to tackle the Portland game in this last 10 minutes and then answer the questions in the chat? Because this is, I think, the most important game of the slate, trying to figure out what Portland value is going to work as far as our projections. People are just showing up now. Portland's probably just landing in Sacramento. They're playing basketball in Sacramento. Well, Dame Lillard's not playing basketball, and Grant's not playing basketball, and Simon's not playing basketball, and Nurkic is not playing basketball. But some dudes wearing jerseys that say Blazers on it will take on the Kings. 235 is the total. The Kings are now, 12-point favorites. I believe the Kings are fully healthy. I think they have a clean – let's see. Yeah, KZ Okpala doesn't count. Monk is good to go. Here is our current projection as far as the starting lineup for Portland. Keon Johnson, Cam Reddish, Thibault, Little, and Eubanks. I thought Sharp was going to start, and I think that's still possible. We'll see. Stay tuned. But, yeah, I'm going to throw it to Bobby here as far as Portland and Sacramento. The Portland side, look at the prices, right? Keon Johnson's 3K starting. Cam Reddish 3.6 projected to start. Thibault 3.5. I think he's like the least interesting, by the way, of this group, Thibault, because I think he just kind of is what he is, and he's just going to be the guy that plays defense and will take the occasional threes and miss them. He'll steal some balls, but I don't think Thibault's going to be like an alpha out there. Feel free to tell me wrong. We got to get this right, Bobby. What's your approach as far as the Blazers?
Yeah, so I faded Chalk Thibault the other night prior to the break. I for the same reasons you just gave. He's just pretty much a 3-and-D guy. If he's a 3 guy, I think the night before he was like 5 of 9 from 3. So his ownership got bumped up a little bit. And he hit in the first half, he hit like 5 in a row. So he was running hot a little bit. Sharp and Cam Reddish, they're both shooting guards, small forward. And they were hitting my stuff like earlier in the day, which is interesting because THT plays the same position. So I think that I think they're good. I think they're good chalk. I wasn't seeing much Keon Johnson. Now I'm seeing a ton of Keon everywhere. I think Keon is probably the play you want at 3K, point guard, shooting guard eligible. But I still think Sharp and Reddish are good plays. So this would this is where I think you can kind of get off THT a little bit. Not fully fade THT, but I think you get off him in some builds for this reason if you want to play 3 of these Trailblazers.
Most you'll play in Portland? Will you play 4?
At most 3 for everyone on the slate, I would say. Maybe 4. I guess you could make a case for 4, but in larger field stuff, it'd be at most 3 for me. At most 4.
Our current projection, by the way, we have 30 fantasy points for Keon, assuming he plays 30 minutes. Fantasy point per minute guy, and he's 3K, still in minimum on DK. I think Sharp at 3.8. We're giving him 26 minutes, 24 fantasy points, but like he's a rookie with some talent. I've tried to run some court IQ stuff here, but it's kind of worthless because you can't,
there's no sample size.
Yeah, you just got nothing. Who was the guy that I think Walker? And I have no idea how many minutes Walker is going to play. Yeah, but if 15% usage as is in the season, that's not very appealing. But I'm just trying to see who jumps from a usage perspective. Keon Johnson in the season's got a 24% usage. That's a pretty big number. That's with everybody, right? So, okay, maybe he's going to be a willing shooter. Sharp just at 16.5%. It's kind of surprising. 0.67 fantasy points per minute. That stinks too. Sharp on the season. I'm sorry, Johnson in the season, 0.83. And again, that's with everybody off the court. You have to imagine he'll get a rise. Thibault at what point? This is on Portland only, 0.82. But I think that's kind of an outlier. I know it was lower in Philadelphia.
It's got to be an outlier because he played like 2 games.
Yeah. Reddish at 0.87.
Our stuff really likes Nas Little. I don't mind Nas Little either at 3.7 because he kind of handles the ball a little bit. It's tough. I think Keon and Nas are probably 2 guys you really have to consider. And then Sharp and Cam are also in play. So I think we should go back to the conversation of how many Trailblazers are too many Trailblazers. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you can play 4, maybe. I think you can play 4, but it's probably 3 is probably the answer. Just because they're so cheap, right? Like you can get 4 guys for like 15K basically. Man, Chop, jump in here. What's your thoughts as far as Portland?
We've currently lost Chop.
Oh, right. So there you go. It was inevitable. we knew that was happening. At some point throughout the show, I had the under actually. So I'm going to cash my ticket on Chop. One more minute, he would have hit the over, so he made it interesting. But I'm trying to see.
Chop battled there for a good bit. Yeah,
he gave a extra bet. Well, hopefully we get Chop these last 5 minutes. If not, we can certainly bring it home until the crunch time crew comes in about 5, 6, 7 minutes, give or take. I'm running it again. I want to see how many actually show, how many pop up with 4 Blazers. 4 might be too much, but dollar for dollar, obviously, as far as like raw points matter at some point. But we're giving, let's see, is Keon Johnson 30 fantasy points or 3K? I don't want to say 10x because that's lazy, but it's a really good play. Eubanks, I'll tell you an interesting one. Like if this game gets out of hand, Watford can play like 24 minutes or so, and he's a fantasy point minute guy, and he's 3-3, right? He's only center, right? Center and center only. But if you think this game gets ugly, I'm pretty sure he's 0.8 fantasy points a minute. I thought he was better than that, but again, this is with everybody playing alongside of him, so all this stuff's going to rise as far as there's no Lillard to take every single shot. There's no Simons, so he will be asked to do more. If you're running 150, I think you include like Johnson, Eubanks, Little. You have like 7 or 8 Blazers in your pool, maybe 7. Johnson, Eubanks, Little, Sharp, Reddish.
I think I have 7 currently. I have 7 currently.
Okay, so you don't have Knox or Arcidiacono?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Should I have them? I
don't
like. What are we
so.
giving them for minutes now?
We're giving them each 16 minutes. If they get squirrely, they might get 24. But we've seen these guys before, and even when they get mid-20s minutes, we saw Arcidiacono with the Bulls several years ago. Jabari Walker. When I did kick everybody off the court, by the way, he was the one guy that actually kind of popped, but obviously the samples were incredibly small. But I just thought that was interesting. We should mention the other side, Sacramento. Like,
I think
does this
Walker would be the one out of Knox, Archie that would be most in
Yes.
play.
Yeah, if I were to add one more to the conversation, let me see. Who did I kick off? Simons. What did I have? I'm going to run it anyway, just to see if anything interesting kind of pops. But I feel like he had a big fantasy point per minute. Maybe it was outlier stuff. Maybe super efficient. But maybe something interesting shows up. No, I just the way it no, Walker was 12.9% usage. Keon Johnson had the biggest usage at 27% in 104 minutes, 0.97 fantasy points per minute. I still have Josh Hart in here at 9 minutes. I can't kick everybody out. Little at 25% usage, so he's the next guy. And there's Sharp at 22% usage. That's a big bump for him in 101 minutes. And again, he's a rookie with some talent. He's got
Sharp
incredible.
was like hitting some of my stuff earlier in the day prior to any of this news. So I think Sharp's a good play. So you said he was getting a usage bump?
Well, he gets a usage bump up to 22%. Again, this is 101 minutes without Lillard, Grant, Nurkic, and Simons. And I think that's a bump up, 4.5% bump. Watford, a 7% bump up as well, up to 21%, 22%. 1.1 fantasy points a minute and 91 minutes. He's interesting if you want to play the blowout angle. Watford can play 24 minutes and put up 35 fantasy points. Like, that's something he can do. But again, that's not for your cash games. That's for you're being ambitious. You're banking on blowouts or foul trouble, right? The direct backup for as far as centers. I love Sabonis earlier today. How much did I love him now? The same? More? Less?
Who did you love earlier in the day? Sorry, you cut out.
Sabonis.
I like Sabonis. I think Sabonis is a really good play. Center only. We have pretty much centers loaded, but I think for that reason he's going to get lost in translation. At 10-1, 37 minutes, 10% ownership we have him for currently. Like, I don't mind getting a Sabonis at all. One of these guys is a good run back, right? So I don't know. I'm for the Sabonis play.
I mean, in this situation, I don't think you have to run somebody back automatically. Obviously, it's an extreme situation, right? Would you agree with that? Like, you don't have to do it because
you don't have to do it. In the NBA, you never have to do it. Sometimes you do see though when these chalk situations happen, the run back comes into play. I don't know. It seems like more often when I look at it that I like to run it back for whatever. I think it goes. I don't think people do it enough. But I get what you're saying in this situation. It doesn't need to be done.
We're giving Thibault 30 minutes, Little 30 minutes, Johnson 30, Reddish 28, Eubanks 28, Sharp 26. I can see Sharp getting 32.
I could see Sharp playing 32. I could see him playing 30 plus also. So I don't know. I like Sharp a good bit.
It's just like, why wouldn't you? It feels like a game like you would give him some run. Like, and even if he plays 26, he's still fine, I think. Yeah, and as far as like speculating how it's going to turn out, like these,
if you were to bump Sharp to 30 and run it, I'd like to see like where he hit.
Oh, I'm sure I'll do it right now. His projection goes up about 4 fantasy points. I'm going to be 30 minutes. Let's run 100 optimals. I put a little juice as far as variance, but let's see all of a sudden how many he creeps into, and then maybe we get 4. We might get 4 Blazers is how it might turn out. But yeah, I hear a child. Is that your child?
He's been coming over. He's been outside. I don't know how he got outside, but
maybe your child wants to play some Sharp.
Yeah, he's playing some Sharp. So here, there you go. Say hi to everyone. You're making all that noise. They know it's making.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What is your child's name?
Bob. Not my choice. Not my.
What was the name? I'm sorry.
Robert. My grandmother my grandfather was Robert, so I want to name him something. Okay. I want to name him like Julian or something. I got overruled.
Fair. Well, did you call Downs for the next one?
Yeah, definitely. I got over that. My grandmother's like an old Italian lady, so I don't know. I didn't want to fight with her.
It's an homage. Yeah, you don't want to disappoint her.
Yeah.
So very first
I'm not big on the
optimal.
juniors.
Say it again.
I'm not big on juniors. Like, I'm not a junior. I don't know. I didn't want to
You
go
don't
that
put the
route.
pressure on your kid, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Your kid all of a sudden would feel pressure to win $1 million. You don't want that over there over your head.
Yeah. You want them to be their own person, pretty much. That was my argument.
So we have first optimal has 3 Blazers: Keon Johnson, Little, and Sharp. So he hits it now if you artificially bump Sharp up. And the second one has 4 Blazers, as we speculated: Sharp, Resh, Little, and Johnson. Little Johnson. How about that?
So when you bumped Sharp, we got more. We got a lot. We got 4 Blazers.
There's a TV show. I know somebody I know watches it. It's like they have 19 kids called like the 17 Little Johnsons or something like that. And there's another way you can take that as well, but we can. It's a different kind of show, I suppose. What's up, Roth? I heard you giggling.
Yeah, and someone in chat just typed, "How long until Dean realizes the Crunch Time crew is waiting?" But I blew it when I giggled at your Little Johnson joke. So.
I didn't say tiny. You added tiny.
I always end up laughing at Dean's Little Johnson. I don't blame you, Roth.
Yes. How you doing, man?
You're tiny.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, it's a funny name, Little Johnson. It's funny.
What's up, boys?
I missed you guys.
CJ,
thank you.
You're all over the Twitter. You're hanging out with all movie stars and stuff. And you turned down the RG party. I understand. I get it. You big shot at us, but you had a good time, I assume, out there in LA.
Had an absolute ton of fun. It wasn't an either or thing. The timing could have worked out. It just I already had the flights booked, and so it just was a little bit. Flying from Canada to the States gets really expensive. But it was a really good time. Had an absolute blast. Met a bunch of friends who work for Agents of Fandom in person for the first time. It was a lot of fun.
Are you excited about playing the Blazers tonight? Myself and Bobby did our best to try to break down Portland season. 3, 4. What are we maxing at tonight? I'm curious. Squirrel and TJ, before we step aside, I'm curious. I'm sure you guys are going to talk about it, but I'm getting to it. The meat of the crux of the slate. It's a 9-gamer, but really the Blazers dictate it. What are we maxing it at? Max 3 or max 4 as far as Blazers tonight?
So I got an answer to this. I think you can go max 4 on FanDuel, like max 6 on DraftKings. Earlier this season, there was a night, I think it was Minnesota, sat everybody, and they were playing Memphis, and I had a thing like, if I'm playing for Timberwolves, I got to have John Morant on there. I got to have at least one run back. So my cash teams, I just had 4 guys from Minnesota. But on my tournament team, if that was the case, I had to have John Morant. Anyway, I had 6 entries into the Millie Maker with that rule, and then 6 cash lineups. One of my 6 cash lineups would have won the Millie Maker.
Wow.
And instead it won a $10 triple up, which is great for my cash lineups being spot on. And I had a good night in the Millie Maker anyway. It was 2,500 in entry, so it was good. I had a bunch of lineups cash. I think 5
I remember you tweeted about that because I think an optimal team won some optimal won it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was one of them that conceivable optimal lineups won the Millie Maker. Nights like this,
Kill a B.
Yeah. So nights like this where it's a team's going to be starting a bunch of $3,000 guys, just play them. These are guys that are starting that are 3,500, 3,000 on DraftKings. Just play them. It's okay. I wouldn't go to 6, but I would say go to 4, maybe at 5, do a run back.
I don't think you're allowed to play 6, are you?
You're allowed to play 6.
You're allowed 6? Okay, I thought you were allowed 5 on 2K.
I wouldn't really play 6.
Yeah.
But I'd play 4 in this situation and not require a run back.
I have it set at 3 to 5 Blazers in every single one of my lineups on DraftKings.
Yeah. I think you're artificial. You're organically, you're going to get 3 no matter what. Even if you don't put that rule in, you're probably getting 3, at least 2. But we'll let you guys sort it out. You guys can talk about the Blazers, and there's 8 other games also in the association. Myself and Bobby, we appreciate y'all watching the first portion here. Hit that like button while you guys hang out and watch the rest of the crunch time. Bobby, you got anything else to the boys before we get out of here?
That's it. Good luck, guys.
All right. That was Bobby. I was Dean. It's Roth. Roth, go for it.
Let's do it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After a fairly glorious little stretch of time off, We're back at it with some of the sharpest minds in the biz. This is Crunch Time. It is sponsored by FanDuel. That's why it's free. And all that FanDuel wants is that you hit the little thumbs up. They actually probably want you to sign up for all their awesome promotions as well. But we want you to hit that thumbs up button. They want to make sure that you can sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1K. I did this. I raked. I made money. You guys should be doing it as well. As I mentioned, a couple absolute DFS studs joining us today. We got Squirrel in the house. What up?
Hey, good to see you. Good to be here. It's an exciting night. I told my wife, like, as I was coming on the show, like, oh, it's exciting. Like, half of Portland's team, like, didn't make it to Sacramento. She's like, oh, I'm so glad NBA is back.
Is that so? I missed it. I was confused as to why the hell, after a week off, like, we were starting a bunch of scrubs. I've been, like, completely just off the radar here. That's what happened.
It was weather. You should, right?
Boy, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Yeah, I have not tuned in at all day. That is fascinating. Okay, so now we got literal people who were not expected to play at all jammed into a starting lineup, and they're at 3K.
Yep.
Man, all right. Well, we will kind of dissect. We'll pick and choose who we want. But I know who I want. I want TJ coming in hot with the GPP takes, or maybe the cash takes. I don't know who he is today. What up, Teach?
I can rip some cash today just because there's probably nobody in the world better at GPPs than Squirrel, so we can let him take that one. But I'm doing well. Happy to be back home in my city in my own bed. My trip was amazing, but happy to be back. I reorganized this whole room today. I got a whole new background. My desk is on the other side of the room as it was before, so getting organized and life's good.
I thought that the backdrop looked a little bit different. It looks good.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Are you OCD?
No, but I was just getting to the point that I had so much stuff and nowhere to put it. I had to do some serious reorganizing.
I get you. You ever like sell the stuff when you just get like too much stuff, or you're going to sell it?
I mean, I might get to that point eventually. Like when I think I won 6 figures in back-to-back weeks in NFL last year. And so after I did that, I just bought like literally everything you see behind me. And so if I ever get to a point in life where it's like, damn, got to pay the mortgage, I know that there's a nice stash here that we can dive into.
Very good. I really approve of those priorities. You win like back-to-back $100,000. You're like, I'm buying all the Funko Pops. Let's go.
Everything I ever wanted as a child, I'm buying now.
I approve. Hey, guys, let's dive into this slate. Of course, we've been talking about Portland. We're playing a lot of them. But TJ, as you are my cash guy, why don't you walk me through? I mean, there's more games than one. So walk me through your thoughts and then walk me through a full build on FanDuel.
Sounds good. So our priority for tonight is obviously Portland because they're without what was their entire starting lineup 2 weeks ago. Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart got traded. Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic, all out tonight. And so they're without their entire starting 5. So they're going to be our biggest priority today. And then the next most enticing spot from a cash game perspective we're probably going to be wanting to go to is Utah. And you can definitely see that is the case here with Noto's core plays. He's got Clarkson and Markkanen from that Utah game, who are both priced at like $1,000 plus cheaper on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings today. Joel Embiid at the center position, Keon Johnson, one of these Portland guards. I'm going to start with specifically this Portland team and then kind of go from a position by position basis. Okay. We're currently projecting Drew Eubanks, Matisse Thybulle, Cam Reddish, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson to be in the starting lineup. I could see Shaedon Sharpe being the one that pops in, somebody who pops into the starting lineup over one of these guys. Maybe it's Nasir Little, maybe it's Thybulle, maybe even it's Keon Johnson here. And so I could see him popping in there as well, but with Keon being 3.5 and him also being projected in the starting lineup, that is going to be our priority today. So let's pop it back to a position by position breakdown here. Jordan Clarkson at 6,400 is just way too cheap, and he's going to be a priority in cash. Fred VanVleet is also too cheap on DraftKings, but for me, with the value that we have on this slate, I think I want to be looking to either SGA here at 10.2K as a run back with some of our Utah guys, or going all the way up to Luka Doncic, and we are going to have the value that's going to be doable today. So if you're sticking in the 8Ks, it's Van Vliet. Or you're paying up to SGA or Luka Doncic at that position. At the shooting guard, if you have Jordan Clarkson at point guard, obviously that's ruled out. But if you want to, you can play him at the shooting guard position, same as SGA and Luka Doncic. Tyrese Halliburton is another guy who's priced too cheap on FanDuel today. Horton Tucker is still a very strong value play on FanDuel. However, he's way cheaper on DraftKings, and so that's going to be where I'm looking to get to him. I probably want to play a Blazer if I'm not paying up. I'm either paying up to SGA or Doncic, or I want to play a Shaedon Sharpe, a Cam Reddish. That's kind of who I'm feeling at this shooting guard range. It's either I'm paying up or I'm paying down for a Blazer, and the one that I'm making sure that I have is Keon Johnson. I'm probably going to, in cash, prioritize Cam Reddish over Shaedon Sharpe if he's in the starting lineup. If he's not, if Sharpe starts and Reddish doesn't, then obviously he's the priority.
And when, TJ, when are we going to get this starting news? And do we have to consider that? Do we have to like not pick dudes because we need to figure out who's starting? Or all these guys are going to get a ton of minutes even if they don't play, so you're okay even if not starting?
Even if they don't start, you're still okay with them. But also because we're going to be playing 3 or 4 Blazers,
you just
it doesn't really matter because we can switch around with them.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so somebody like a Cam Reddish, you can play him at the small forward position as well. At the small forward, you're definitely playing at least one Blazer. You got Nasir Little at 3,900. You got Cam Reddish at 4,100. You got Matisse Thybulle at 4,200. You can play 2 Blazers there. That's totally fine. You're at least playing one of these guys. If I was running 150, I'd probably set a rule that I want to play at least one of these guys at the small forward position. You're either playing Lauri Markkanen at the small forward or the power forward position. If you didn't play Taylor Horton Tucker at the shooting guard, you can play him at the small forward position. Even if for some reason he doesn't start, I don't think you have to panic because that just means he's playing the backup point guard role. If he does start, that might mean he's the point guard on the starting lineup as well. So I really like Taylor Horton Tucker today, but we'll talk about him even more on DraftKings where he is even cheaper. And I think that's where you're looking to go today at the small forward position. Power forward, you're playing Markkanen if you didn't play him at small forward. Drew Eubanks at 4,900, I think, is a cash game lock at this power forward position as well, especially if you're playing Embiid at the center position. And it's really just Eubanks, Markkanen. If you played Markkanen at the small forward position, then you can look at somebody like Sabonis if you have the money. If you don't, you can look to go down to somebody like Harrison Barnes, I think is okay from a cash game perspective. But I would personally rather just go to play Lauri Markkanen here at the power forward position, and then you can play Eubanks at the other spots. And then at the center position, Noto has Joel Embiid tagged. If you can't get up to Embiid, it's fine to play Eubanks at the center position.
Okay, very good. Let's talk tournaments, and already kind of got a good analysis there of like you have no problem playing a ton of these dudes. But what I want to know is like which of these guys is a points per minute guy, and which of them is going to go out there, get 35 minutes, sit in a corner, and do nothing for me.
Yeah, we don't really know, but we haven't really seen this combination of guys, right? It's a wacky thing. You know, Anthony Simons is already out. Damian Lillard's not going to play. Jeremy Grant's out. I think they actually did make it to Sacramento. It's just like something with travel. Like I know like Jeremy Grant's coming back from a concussion, and I think he was supposed to come back today, or he's come back recently. So, anywho. It's all Portland and Utah, and I would not be shy with them because this is really like a mispricing. And Portland has a bunch of guys priced at like 3,500 on FanDuel. They're still going to go out and they're going to dribble the ball for like 48 minutes, go back and forth. People are going to take shots. They need bodies. They need to play these guys. So I do think that anyone from Portland is in play. I do think you should pay attention to this starting lineup. If Shaedon Sharpe's not in the starting lineup, that's not a concern because he's their young, talented rookie.
Yeah.
He can still put up points no matter what coming off the bench. But there are some guys if Keon Johnson's not in the starting lineup, I'm not as high on him. I'm probably higher on Kevin Knox. I think he might be ahead of Keon Johnson in the rotation, probably a little bit higher on Jabari Walker than some people. They're the backup point guard. The guy used to be on the Bulls, Archie Docano. I think he's kind of a tournament flyer. If you want to get crazy with, because we really have no idea what this Portland rotation is going to look like. But just to kind of go position by position, I like Jordan Clarkson a lot. I like the Utah guys. They're without like Colin Sexton. They traded Mike Conley. And like, so I would not shy away from like the two guys I probably like the most overall are like Clarkson and Taylor Horton Tucker. I like Lauri Markkanen was right behind them. Kelly Olynyk even. There's going to be like both Utah and Portland have a lot of like shots and minutes to go around today. But at point guard position, it's like Jordan Clarkson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I like James Harden also like as a tournament play. John Morant, a little bit better on FanDuel than DraftKings, then Killian Hayes as well. I think Josh Giddey is also in play as like kind of a pivot off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shooting guard position is where you're going to get like a bunch of Taylor Horton Tucker. I would not shy away from him. I was thinking earlier today before the Portland news hit that like you should be playing THD in every lineup on both sites.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he's that mispriced. Cam Reddish though is going to take away like some of the maybe Taylor Horton Tucker usage, but like shouldn't take away too much. You can play both of them. And let's see, Luka Doncic as well. Is always a potential slate breaker. Small forward position. I'm like really high on Matisse Thybulle on FanDuel in particular, but on both sites, probably like higher than his projection. He like leads the league in steals per 36 minutes, which is a weird like esoteric like stat to lead the league in, and it usually doesn't matter because he's playing like 15 minutes off the bench in Philly and he's never taking any shots because like Embiid is there and James Harden is there. Well, now there's nobody there and there's nobody to play the minutes. There's nobody to take the shots. Like Thybulle could get like 4 or 5 steals. Like he's been coming off the bench in Philly and getting like 5 steals in 20 minutes. Like he could have an outlier game where like an outlier game for him is like 6-7 steals and nobody wants to play him because he doesn't shoot the ball. Like there's going to be shots to take. If he has one of his outlier like steals games, he's going to break the slate. So it's in my mind, it's Matisse Thybulle day. But also at the small forward position, other guys you can play like Taylor Horton Tucker, Lauri Markkanen, getting a lot of them. Cam Reddish, I wouldn't be, don't shy away from the Portland guys. And then Paolo Banchero, I like is if you're going to play somebody from the early games. Power forward, all the guys I just mentioned. Andrew Eubanks, another Portland guy. Domantas Sabonis is probably my favorite run back from the Sacramento guys. And both at power forward and center, I actually kind of like Evan Mobley a little bit than like is projected, just because Kevin Love is not there anymore. So there could be a few more minutes for Evan Mobley. He's a good point per minute guy. So he's somebody I like at the center position. Also a tournament flyer like Xavier Tillman. I don't think we have like the Memphis starting lineup, and I think our projections and everybody's projections are like middling the Brandon Clark Xavier Tillman thing. But I think Xavier Tillman's probably more likely to get the start. So maybe bump up Xavier Tillman in your projections. I think he's an interesting tournament flyer.
Okay, very good. I have an ownership question for you, Squirrel. Like this is on DK, but it probably pertains to FanDuel as well. Like I'm building my lineup, I'm plugging in all these cheap dudes, and then I'm like, oh, I have all the money in the world. Lock Luka. Like, are those dudes at the top? Like whoever, Luka, Embiid, whatever it is everyone going to play them? Because I have a util spot open, and that's it. And I have $15,000. Like I have too much money.
Yeah. I would say that like everybody's going to play like at least one of the spend ups. You kind of have to like but there's enough guys that are really expensive that like you don't have to worry about ownership that much. Like Damian Lillard was going to be one of them. But now he's out. But like, you could spend up on Luka, you could spend up on Embiid, you could spend up on SGA, you could spend up on Jokic. Like there's enough guys to spend money on, like LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum. Like there's enough guys. You don't really have to worry about ownership.
Okay, very good. I
or
almost
you don't like say I'm not going to play this guy because
I just kind of figured everyone would just get the priciest dude, whoever's the very most expensive, because we have all the money. But you don't feel that way.
I don't think so. I probably like SGA of like the total spend ups. Probably the best, at least on FanDuel.
Okay, very good. Let's kick it over to DK and let's walk through it. TJ.
Before we do, I want to touch on one thing for tournaments as well. Cards brought it up briefly at the beginning of his tournament takes, but just in case somebody popped in late, I know we got over 500 people watching now, so make sure you're hitting the like button. Let's bump this way up.
Hit the like or take a hike.
Hit the like or take a hike. There's 500 of you. Come on, let's slide your fingers over there and hit the like button. But if you're running a lot of lineups today, Jabari Walker, Kevin Knox, these are two players who are going to pick up next to no ownership today and have massive ceilings, and they could maybe pop in and play 24, 25 minutes. And if they do, they could be slate breakers today. So get these guys in your pools if you're playing lots of lineups. Arcidiacono is the one that I'm not super thrilled about the idea of playing, but if all of a sudden he happened to be in the starting lineup, then I would probably just swap all my Keon Johnson shares to Arcidiacono.
Okay. You gonna walk me through a DK build as well?
Let's do it.
There's just too much value for me. It's my mind is exploding. I don't know where I'm supposed to spend up and which of these 7 scrubs I'm playing I'm supposed to not play and spend up for.
So, yeah, that's reasonable because it's kind of difficult in this spot, but that's why you're likely going to get to a ton of Luka Doncic. You're likely going to get a ton of Joel Embiid today. It's still all about the Blazers. Your second place for value after that is going to be Utah. The difference with Utah on DraftKings is that Jordan Clarkson and Lauri Markkanen, they are not underpriced. They are appropriately priced here on DraftKings. They're still fine plays. If you want to get to them in tournaments, that is totally fine. If you land on one in the last piece in cash, that's whatever. That's okay. But they're appropriately priced here. The rest of the team is not, though. Talen Horton-Tucker at 4,800, one of the better plays on the slate. Walker Kessler at 5,700, one of the better plays on the slate. Kelly Olynyk at 5,300, in my opinion, one of the better tournament plays on the slate. And so Utah is still a source of value, and it still has underpriced players. They're just different players here than they are on FanDuel. On DraftKings, in terms of Portland, as long as Keon Johnson's in the starting lineup, we are still prioritizing him. He's the flat 3K. Nasir Little, a phenomenal play. Shaedon Sharpe, a phenomenal play. Drew Eubanks, where he only has center eligibility, isn't quite as appealing, but he is still fine. And then Cam Reddish, as long as he's in the starting lineup. Matisse Thybulle, if he's in the starting lineup. All of these guys are strong plays today. If you land on them, that's fine. I think my personal priority one would be Keon Johnson from a cash game perspective. And then I guess the projections do say for Nasir Little, but in tournaments, I like the idea of going Cam Reddish instead of him here. Matisse Thybulle still has a big ceiling, even on DraftKings. If he gets a ton of steals, and Kevin Knox and Jabari Walker, I'm very interested in them for tournaments as well. But let's go position by position here. We got Noto score plays locked in of Talen Horton-Tucker, Keon Johnson, Joel Embiid, and Walker Kessler. At the point guard position, we have a ton of money to spend and an open point guard position. So Luka Doncic is looking pretty darn good here. And then all of a sudden it's only $4,500 per remaining. It gets more reasonable to build out the rest of these spots here with all the value that we have. Shaedon Sharpe is fine, especially if he's in the starting lineup. He becomes a very good option. But if you land on him in the guard spot or the point guard spot, that's fine. Jordan Clarkson, same thing. Killian Hayes, projections wise, it's fine, but for me, I'm not getting there today. It's either a Blazer or it's Luka Doncic or it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, although that's probably more of a tournament play. At the shooting guard position, it's Johnson, it's Sharpe, it's Horton-Tucker, it's Reddish, it's nobody else. You're saving value here. These are the guys that you're going with. Keon Johnson's priority 1, Talen Horton-Tucker's priority 2, Sharpe and Reddish 3 and 4. That's where you're going here in cash games. At the small forward position, you're still probably playing one of these Blazers or Jazz. It's Keon Johnson, Nasir Little, Talen Horton-Tucker, Cameron Reddish. If you happen to land on Lauri Markkanen, if you happen to land on Tobias Harris, Keldon Johnson, where you want to spend up to LeBron, I'm all good with that. Those are kind of, if you land on it, that's fine. But your priorities are the Blazers and the Jazz. The Blazers and the Jazz. Power forward position, you can play Nasir Little over here. Lauri Markkanen is fine at the power forward position. Kelly Olynyk is fine, but if you're playing already Horton-Tucker and Kessler, that could get a little bit scary. These are your value pieces. Nasir Little is probably the one you're more likely to play here. But if you end up on a build where you're just playing so much value and you happen to get Tatum as your last piece, that is totally A-okay. And then at the center, Joel Embiid's priority 1, Walker Kessler's priority 2. Zach Collins is fine if you land on him, but I would go with Walker Kessler over Zach Collins if you're choosing between the two of them.
Okay. Very good. Squirrel, you want to talk some tournaments on DK? Is there anything different, or it's the same thing?
It's going to be mostly the same thing. Although I think TJ, one of the first things you said is like the most important thing that's differentiating between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's actually Jordan Clarkson's price. It's like $1,300 more on FanDuel than on DraftKings. It's like on FanDuel, like Clarkson's like almost a must play because like they really don't have any point guards. So like THT and Clarkson are going to see a bunch of minutes. They do have another guy, Agbaji, who's an interesting like pivot. Because he could be in the starting lineup, and so he could get some minutes. And maybe if he goes crazy, which he tends not to do, he could be taking away from like Clarkson or THT. But like THT is so underpriced, I wouldn't even risk it that much. But on DraftKings, like Clarkson is not that underpriced, so he's a tournament guy, but not necessarily like a cash piece that you need to be playing. But like position by position, like point guard, Shaedon Sharpe, James Harden, Luka. Killian Hayes, Markelle Fultz is a little bit of a better play on DraftKings than FanDuel. SGA, a little bit of a worse play on DraftKings than FanDuel. Shooting guard, like just play a ton of Talen Horton-Tucker, and then like just keep like rotating through all these Blazers if you're doing a bunch of lineups. The one like, I probably like them all about equal. Tybalt doesn't get the extra point for steals on DraftKings, but he's less money too. So it's all the, like Cam Reddish, Shaedon Sharpe, Tybalt, and Keon Johnson are all about the same. I'll say that I still like Kevin Knox a little bit. Pay attention to the starting lineup. Keon Johnson is shooting guard, small forward, and 3,000. Knox is small forward, power forward, and 3,000. So as you're like, keep in mind that either of them could start or see bigger minutes, and so like keep that in mind as you're doing the positions. And then Jordan Clarkson at shooting guard is like tournament play, but not like a lock.
Something I want to get in quick on that note, Squirrel, just because we do have a lot of people kind of asking similar questions in YouTube that are on the note of these Blazers guards. If you're looking to fade Keon Johnson in a tournament, a lot of people are asking, like, do we go down to Arcidiacono? I think so much does depend on the starting lineup, but I don't think you have to look at it as like, we're projecting Keon Johnson to be starting at the point guard position, and therefore, if it's not him, it's Arcidiacono. If it's not him, there's still Shaedon Sharpe and Cam Reddish, who they both could play at that point guard position, and Arcidiacono still might not pick up minutes. And so I actually do think it's exactly like you said, more likely to be a guy like Knox, who's a strong point per minute producer, to pick up the minutes there. If Keon Johnson busts, I think Knox is more likely than Arcidiacono to be the guy who kind of goes off, unless Arcidiacono happens to be in the starting line.
Very good.
Yeah, it's really a crapshoot, and I would just be like, have a bunch of Blazer spots in your lineups, and so you can like kind of pivot to whoever is in the starting lineup. There's certain guys like Shaedon Sharpe. If he's not in the starting lineup, it's maybe not a big deal. But if Kevin Knox is in the starting lineup, that's a big deal. So you want to just keep that in mind, and keep in mind like who you can swap to, depending on where you're putting them, in terms of positions. Power forward, it's like, Nasir Little, Jabari Walker, I think is an interesting pivot. It's like, I think if any of these Portland guys like starts doing really well, they're going to keep them in that game. Kelly Olynyk is a tournament pivot. Anthony Lamb is a guy that is maybe worth putting in. Like he's 3,000, and like it's not inconceivable that he outscores some of these Blazers that are also 3,000. So he's somebody to keep in mind, because Andrew Wiggins is out tonight for Golden State. Mm-hmm. Center, I like Embiid probably more on DraftKings than I do on FanDuel. I think he's a little bit cheaper. And it's really hard to find somebody at the center spot that can put up a lot of points. I mean, you've got Jokic.
There's Jokic is on the slate, right? Is there a reason no one?
Jokic is on the slate. I'm playing a good amount of him in like 150 set, but less than I am Embiid. That's going to be a slow-paced game.
Yeah,
Cleveland's got good big men, so I kind of prefer Embiid. Gotcha. And Walker Kessler in play as well.
Okay. I've got a question for you here. If I'm trying to figure out which of these super cheap Blazers to fade, is that an answer that you know now, or that's just, well, this guy isn't starting? Like, Sharp, Reddish, Little, Eubanks. Which of this value should I not be all over?
It's hard to say without starting lineup. Like I was just kind of surprised when I saw Keon Johnson projected so highly because he hasn't played big minutes, I don't think, in any game this year. And I think he might have played like more than 20 minutes or more than 30 minutes in one game this year, and he put up 16 like DraftKings points. So I was surprised to see him projected so highly. And I feel like Kevin Knox has been ahead of him in the rotation, but it's tough. We don't know what the rotation is going to look like compared to like when they have all of their or most of their starting lineup.
Okay. Is it fair to say then if you see Keon Johnson not starting, you're, less excited about it? You're still playing him, cutting your exposure? What are you doing?
I'd be like, I'd be rerunning my lineups to get a lot less Keon Johnson. Whereas that's not true of Shaden Sharp.
Okay. That's very good.
And
TJ,
like
do you feel
Knox
the same way? If Keon Johnson is not starting, are you pulling him from your cash lineups?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
And I even think from a tournament perspective, like it's so much about the starting lineup, just like Squirrel said, but like in a vacuum right now, if you're running 150 and you're thinking like, who can I get underweight to? Who can I get overweight to? Nasir Little and Keon Johnson are both projecting for over 40%. Just swap that with Shaden Sharp and Cam Reddish, and all of a sudden you are very different than the field. Get 25 to 30% Matisse Thybulle. Make sure you're mixing in your Trendon Watford and Kevin Knox's and Jabari Walker's. And that is kind of your way to get different right there, just because the Nasir Little and Keon Johnson are picking up so much ownership. If you're playing a lot of lineups, I think those would be the ones you could pull away from. And then if either of those two are not in the starting lineup, those would be the first two I'd look to get away from.
Very good. Okay. Guys, we've got about 11 minutes left for some QQs. Anything you guys want to talk about before we do so?
I do have one question for Squirrel. It got announced that Vlatko Kantkar is going to be in the starting lineup for Denver instead of Aaron Gordon. Is that somebody you'd include in your 150 max setting?
In 150, yeah, definitely. I kind of like Vlatko, but keep in mind that like when he's been playing recently or playing big minutes recently, it's like everybody's out. Like I feel like they've had a couple of games where like Jokic has been out and like Jamal Murray's been out, and they've been like starting like Brown and Vlatko. But I think they're high on him. I think he's a good player, but I don't necessarily think that I would like go crazy with him in cash.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, very good. Gentlemen, we have 10, 11 minutes left for some QQs. Let's dive into it here. By the way, hit the like or take a hike. This is great content by two of the sharpest minds in the biz, and all we ask is a free show. You got to pay, but you just have to pay by clicking the like button. We appreciate that. Carolina guy says, Squirrel, what up, fellas? Fanduel single entry, your favorite stud or studs?
So I think like SGA would probably be my favorite stud on FanDuel, and then maybe like Sabonis. And it's actually because you're gonna be playing a lot of Blazers and Utah guys anyway. It's like you could actually kind of run it back with both Sabonis and SGA.
It's blowing my mind that you have literally all the money in the world and your favorite spend ups are SGA and Sabonis. I feel like the ownership is going to be low, and this is why you're better at this than I am.
I think like Luka's in play and like Jokic is in play, but those are going to be like lower paced games. Yeah. So
okay. All right. NBA DFS is FanDuel Cash, Luka Sabonis or Embiid SGA? TJ?
Embiid SGA.
Very good. Mike, FanDuel GPP, your favorite Sacramento stud run back with 4 Blazers in the lineup. It's Sabonis too. Is Sabonis on Sacramento now? Got it.
I think it's De'Aaron Fox is actually interesting because like if the game's really fast paced, then like that probably benefits Fox, but it probably benefits both Fox and Sabonis.
Okay, very good. DK Cash, is Clarkson a priority?
Not on DraftKings, no. If you land on him as a last piece, that's fine, but he's not a priority on DraftKings.
All right, very good. This is a good question because I'm playing a little. It's a good question in general. Also, it applies to me. But Fultz early or wait in cash?
I would rather wait on somebody other than Fultz. Like I'd rather be spending up for Doncic or SGA or spending down for a Blazer.
Okay. You do have some Fultz in tournament lineups though, right, Squirrel?
I do have some faults, but I don't have him in cash for what it's worth. Like, I think there'll be other options.
Okay. FanDuel GPP, any interest in the Lakers Golden State late TNT game? Any interest there?
Yeah, I'm getting some LeBron, even in like smaller field like tournaments. And like I think they get a little bit more rest during those like TNT games. It's something to think about. So I do. I have a sprinkling of LeBron in tournaments.
Okay. BK pointing out, by the way, I know we don't care about what one player did in one game against one team, but Jokic did hang a 70 burger on Cleveland the one time they played earlier this year. So it is just, he can still get it done. DK Cash question, TJ, any issue with both Kessler and Collins?
I would rather play Embiid in one of those spots, but if you're not, that is probably the two you would want to be going with. Although I like Eubanks more than Collins today.
Okay, very good. I'm jumping into the YouTube really quick just because True North says, TJ, do your hair for these shows for bleep's sake. I literally came from the beach. My hair looks so shitty and they're ragging on you.
It's longer. I got it's up here in the back. I didn't notice until right before I was coming on. I was putting this like room all together, and so like I started sweating a little bit. So he's right. He's right. I'm laughing today.
Yeah, I just can't believe I dodged that bullet. I've been looking like, ooh, buddy, maybe shouldn't have come straight from the beach. But hey, TJ, do your hair, bro. You look like shit, man. FanDuel Cash 3v3. Embiid, THT, SGA, or Paolo, Laurie, Luca?
First one.
Okay. Anybody playing Joval versus Toronto? TJ? Anybody? Squirrel? Anybody?
I don't really.
No.
Is anybody playing Pirtle? He still looks so cheap to me. Squirrel, 150. How much Pirtle do you have?
On was it FanDuel or DraftKings?
On DK, I think he was like 5'9" or something, and the other day put up like 60 points or something insane.
I do have some of them, but not a lot, like single digit exposure. I like for the Toronto like New Orleans game, like everybody's just efficiently priced. It's like if you're gonna play one, like that's the situation where if you're gonna play like Jakob Poeltl or like Valanciunas, like maybe run it back or like have at least with a teammate or somebody from the opposition. Like then if that happens to be the game that goes into overtime, like then everybody's gonna be really low owned. So something to think about.
Okay, very good.
We have Poeltl projected right now for 0.58% ownership. And so technically I'm 6x the field with the 3% Poeltl that I have.
Okay, that's a way to 6x the field. I approve of that. FanDuel GPP, this is a good question. Squirrel, do you mind flipping the build and avoiding Sabonis by paying down with bigs like Eubanks, KO, and Watford together and paying up at all the guards with Fox, Luka, SGA?
Yeah, I think that's great. Like I think that's an intelligent build.
Very nice. Okay.
I don't know if I'd want to play Watford and Eubanks together, though.
Okay, good note. DK single entry. Paul says Luka Clarkson or SGA Markkanen? Squirrel?
What was the first one?
It was Luka Clarkson or SGA Markkanen. I think you prefer the latter. But that was on FanDuel, but you answer it.
Yeah, I'd still probably go with the latter one. I feel like that's a group of guys that are better priced on FanDuel.
Okay. Very nice. ECS says DK Cash, if I'm starting Luka and Embiid, is Fultz okay instead of waiting for Blazers? TJ,
I
don't love it.
From a cash perspective, no.
Yeah, I think you gotta have the starting Blazers. DK GPP, THT or Branham?
THT.
Mike says a very important side question. TJ, how many Funko Pops do you have? He has 40 or so. Pretty sure you've got him topped.
About 350, 400-ish.
That's a lot. Any like what is the value on your rarest Funko Pop?
Probably like
you know the answer. Don't probably
$300-400.
$300-400 on your which is it? You need to finish it out now.
I have a Daredevil one that's very hard to find.
There you go. All right. Back to the QQs. Got 3-4 minutes until lock here. No love for Fox. Actually, Squirrel, you had mentioned you kind of did.
Yeah, we've touched on him a little bit. I think he's playable, but it's definitely a tournament thing. And if you're doing 150 lineups, I wouldn't go crazy with him. But it's an interesting pivot off of Sabonis.
Okay. Lord King Guru says, I'm kind of loving W. Carter tonight as a mid-range. Squirrel, I don't know who that is.
Oh, Wendell Carter.
Wendell Carter. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so I was getting a lot of him earlier in the day, but now I'm not getting so much of him because, he is a mid-range guy on what's kind of shaping up as a star as a scrub slate. I think if you want to go with him, I think he's a little bit underpriced. And so I think it's reasonable.
Okay. Eugene says, FanDuel tournament, should I pay up for Tybal or play Knox and leave the 700? I love what you mentioned about Tybal on FanDuel with the added points for steals. You want to run that back?
I would go with Tybal because Knox could put up a 0. Knox, even with Portland being somewhat shorthanded, he could play 15 minutes if he's not in the starting lineup and just put up 6 points or something. So Tybal is almost certainly going to be in the starting lineup, and he has potential that people aren't thinking about with the steals.
Yeah, outlier. If he has a big steals game on FanDuel, he gets 7 steals and does some other things. He could blow the slate open. I love that. Tobias Harris at 4.9. That's got to be in play, right? Holy crap! Tobias is 4.9.
Yeah, on DraftKings, I think. I don't think he's on play on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, he's super cheap. So on FanDuel, 5,700. He's 4,900 on DraftKings, but now we've got so much value, you don't necessarily need to go to a 4,900 Tobias Harris.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. FanDuel single entry, right back at you here again, Squirrel. Lucas Sharp or Van Vliet and Poole? Van Vliet and Poole.
I like the first one.
Very nice. FanDuel GPPs. Are 4 Portland guys too many with a Fox run back? You say hell no.
Yeah, you don't even need the Fox run back.
Love it. All right. FanDuel single entry again. Lucas Sharp or Van Vliet and Poole? He just asked it twice. It wasn't me. Next question. BK says, DKGP pick one, Little, Reddish, or Tybal.
Let's see. If you have the salary, I would go with Cam Reddish. If it's DK, because Tybal's not going to get the extra point for the steals.
Apparently, I skipped D-Rock's question. DKGPP, last piece, Franz Wagner or DiVincenzo?
Probably DiVincenzo.
Very nice.
Wiggins is out and Curry's out.
Okay. Draymond or Keldon in FanDuel Cash?
Draymond or Keldon. Don't love either, but I'd go Draymond. I wouldn't want to play either in Cash, but there's a minute left, so Draymond.
Okay. DK Cash. This is a 3v3, TJ. Fultz, Reddish, Embiid, or Harden, Kellyo, Zach Collins?
Ugh. Don't like either, but I guess first one.
Very nice. Hammer says, Kev, your play of the day. I didn't even know that half the blade. I'm so not plugged in today that I don't even have a fun, joking play of the day for you. I have nothing. I'm out today. I'll be better tomorrow. Sean says 6K util last piece DKGPP. We hit the lock.
6K GPP.
Yes, in the util.
I was gonna say Wendell Carter, or Fultz. Maybe Zach Collins.
Okay.
Walker Kessler too, if you got him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. All of that works. Let's see. We hit the lock. We'll take a couple more questions before we bounce here. Jay Sam says, TJ, on FanDuel, you said you wouldn't like to play Watford and Eubanks together, but they're so cheap and they're the only bigs. Would you think tonight could be the exception to that rule?
Yes. It's you can't I don't want to, but I don't think it's objectively wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, I am staring at some lineups where I have $4,000 left to spend. So I should probably spend that money, right? Squirrel, how much money have you left on the table? Is it is there a crazy amount tonight because of all the value, or no? You're still spending it
on regular slate NBA. I would not leave. I still would not leave more than 500 on the table.
Okay.
The exception, I did. Like, I would not start off leaving a ton of money on the table.
Yeah,
because there's guys you can sign up for.
Yeah, I'm not planning on it, but it's where it landed. So I've got some money to spend and get that done here before we get things rolling. So with that, you feel good to bounce?
Let's do it.
Yeah, get the nods. All right. For Squirrel, for TJ, for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.